testes em Pro, né? Até onde eu entendi. E ele também é um autor muito conhecido, ele tem dois livros muito famosos, um deles é o Mastering Pro, que é um guia de referência para a galera que programa Pro já até um nível mais avançado. Ele também é autor do Effective Pro, muito bacana, que tem vários detalhes assim, pragmáticos de desenvolvimento de software usando a linguagem Pro, né? Para quem não conhece direito Pro, eu acho que vai ser legal, ele vai mostrar algumas coisas relacionadas especialmente até a faceta de testes e tal, né? Eu avisei para ele que o pessoal não é necessariamente, não sabe Pro, né? Então eu acho que ele vai ser bem didático e tal, e qualquer coisa vocês virem. Tá? Okay. É isso, pessoal. Para ele.
Boa noite. Close. Is it okay if I speak English?
Okay.
Okay. Bruno said I should come tonight and meet all of you. Maybe do a very short demonstration and we can just program or whatever you guys do. So I thought I would show you how we start a Perl distribution normally, or at least how I do it. How many people use Perl? Anyone? A couple people? Okay. So this isn't anything particularly special to Perl. You could do it in other things. Like you guys use Ruby or Python, Java, C, Pascal. Okay, so a Perl distribution is just a convention that we've developed over years to put the right files in the right places so all the tools can find them. And so I wrote a tool that I call distribution cooker. It just takes some templates and it makes all the starting files for you. Other languages probably have the same things. It's not a big deal. And I have a lot of Perls installed, and so for the tools I have to put the version of Perl that I want to use on the end. So it uses that particular Perl. So this one is kind of old because Perl 5.10 from a long time ago. So let's just start one. We'll call Rio Dojo, or actually let's do this. Say DojoRio. And it just makes the templates. It's nothing fancy. So there's just a bunch of files. I won't go through and explain all of those. I could, it's in my books, but you're probably not too interested in that part. The curious part you're probably interested in, since Bruno said you like to do testing and test-driven development, is the T directory. So if we look in there, there's already some files. There's one to see if it loads. Just before you start, you want to make sure that it actually compiles. You don't want to go through a bunch of tests and then you have a missing semicolon or something and it just keeps going and going and going, failing. Perl uses a documentation format called POD, for plain old documentation, so POD. Very similar to some things that other people use, but just a little bit Perly, because we always have to do it a little bit different than Perl. So what we want to do usually for the normal Perl stuff is make sure that we've documented everything. One of the things that we really like to encourage in Perl is you actually include instructions on what your module does. And the other one that we normally put in there by default too is for pod coverage. So every method that you declare, you want to have some instructions about that. Okay, so let's go into there. Let's change into there. Is Unix fine for everyone?
Okay.
Okay. I just sort of assume that people know what I'm doing when they watch the screen. So we have the build file. So this would be like setup.py or whatever Ruby uses and stuff like that. So we'll just start with that, just to put everything in the right place. We haven't done any coding yet. We've just made a standard thing. And so I should be able to do a make test now. Hopefully it passes. Okay, so it's passed, so we're good. Let's look at the module. I called it Dojo DojoRio.pm, and it's not there. Oh, okay, it's just right like that. You guys like VI?
Yeah.
Okay.
Emacs anyone? Something else?
Ooh.
MX.
It's okay. Okay, so this is just a standard Perl file. So no big one. So let's so what should we do? Let's see if I can. No, we don't need to do anything with the network. We'll do something simpler. Let's do. Anyone need a problem solver?
FuseBus?
What's it? No suggestions? I get to pick if you don't suggest something.
FuseBus? FuseBus? FuseBus?
Okay, so let's just. Okay, but since we're doing test-driven development, we'll start with the test first. My wife has one of those.
It's very good after your exit.
Yes. Okay, so let's say we want to add a new feature. So we'll start by adding a new test bar. So we'll say vi test. We'll just add numbers because that's very easy.
Nope.
Okay, so I'll add some Perl stuff. Just to start off, because we want to be good programmers. So you've probably heard the reputation that Perl is very liberal and lets you do all sorts of stuff. We'll just be less liberal about that. And Perl doesn't normally warn you about things, because it just lets you do things that are bad. So we'll tell it, no, we want you to warn us about things. Now here's where things get interesting. There's a module that comes with Perl called test more that has most of the test stuff that you need to use to get started. So we'll just include that for right now, and we're going to say no plan. We can say at the front how many tests we're going to run, which is good because you want to make sure you actually run that number of tests. You don't want to stop in the middle and skip a bunch of tests. You want to make sure you got to the end. I think this is how you do it, right? I always get mixed up. I always put like test in front of it.
Use warnings in plural, right?
Yes, yes. If you see something. So this is how test-driven development works. I would try to run this file and it would say cannot load warning at something. It's always very dangerous to code in front of a group on a projector because they see that you are as mistake-prone as everybody else. Okay, and then what we want to do is just say, we'll say use OK. This is something that comes from test more, and we'll say DojoRio. So that should work. So we'll go back to. Oh, I gotta show you another thing. Now this is particular to me. Most Perl people don't do this. I have a file that lists the tests that I want to run. So when I have a very big application and I want to only run some of the tests, I can just put it in this file and I don't have to worry about stuff. There's a tool that will do that in Perl called prove, but you have to do a lot of typing. In this, I just put it in there. If one test runs slowly and I want to not worry about that, I can comment it out. So I'll do this. I'll put in add.t and then make test again, and it's fine. It loads the modules. We haven't done anything in the module, so there's nothing to break yet.
And instead of you put the test that you want to run in that file, can you run just one test per time? Like one column that run just one test?
Oh, if
just one file?
Instead of the file?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's how I do it. So I've been programming Perl for a long time, so I've just gotten some habits from a long time ago, and other people use newer tools. But I do this. I say Perl-m blib. Blib is the build library. When I did that make step, it took everything out of lib and the various places and it put it in this thing called blib. That looks just like the structure it's going to copy to the final place when I install it. So the blib module puts into the add inc, the directory search path, all the stuff that I might have made when I did the make. And then I just do this, like add.t. And it comes up like, that's what I do. But some people will do this, they'll say prove t add.t.
You gotta have the -l.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it loads the lib
Yes.
directory. Yeah. Well,
Oh, I probably have something screwed up. Because I don't use prove, so prove expects things to be in a certain way, and I just don't necessarily do them that way. But there is a thing, if you do that in a normal directory. Let's do this. So there I just have rio.pm in lib. I think what it's expecting is it to be in there. And then let's move rio.pm into Dojo. Get back in the main directory and let's try the prove again. Now it works, right?
Yeah.
Yes, alt test successful. So it was expecting a certain structure. I think this works too. If you put the b, it does the blib, right? Yeah. So some people do the -l, but I think that's a bad habit for people to get in because at some point you're going to run into a module that has to change the source as it installs it. It's going to have to discover things about your system.
I think DBI does that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
And so you always want to make first and then test in blib. But no problem. Okay, so what I have to do now, since I did that, oops. If I can actually prove to you that I might have some experience, I'll just get rid of this bit, get rid of that bit. And this guy, I have to tell it where the version is from, but I moved the file, so I'll just put the new location there. And if you're really fancy with VI, you don't ever have to leave VI. You can do the bang stuff. I'm just not used to doing that. So I wear out the arrow key on my keyboard from just going back up the command history. So we do this again. If we do a make again, and notice I changed it, so it does it again. Okay, so all that's good. Now we want to do the test-driven development stuff. So let's go back to that T directory. Now, different people do different things in their tests, and they like to do it in particular ways. I have my ways of doing things. I have made plenty of mistakes where I forget to add the method, or I change the method name and I forget about it. And so I like to do this. I like to say can, okay, you give it the package that you care about, and the thing that you want to test. So let's say add, like that. So I'm going to add an add method. So I'm going to put in the module a method called add. No, it's very hard even in English when you put those two words that are the same together. And so I want to make sure it's there. So again, it's test-driven development, so I'll write the test. We will do a make test. It fails. There's no method that does that. So now we have to go add that. So let's just do that. And if you guys are fancy and working with strings and whatnot, you can keep all these things in VI. I normally don't use VI. I like another Mac editor, so I don't have anything set up to do this correctly, and I don't remember any of the VI stuff. So, well, actually, I can fill in the new, I guess. Okay, so I'll just say sub add, and I'll say die not implemented. Because if you're really doing this correctly, you're doing just the minimum amount you need to do to make the thing pass. Now this will die, and it'll probably screw up my test. Well, actually it won't because I'm not going to call it. But it will make that other test pass. So if I do this again, so now this other test fails, pod coverage. There's one naked subroutine, add. I didn't put any documentation in for that. So I did something, it fails, so I had to go fix that. Does everyone here do test-driven development, or has done it before?
Okay.
Every week.
They should, yeah.
Okay. I just want, if there's like any new people or something, I didn't want to assume that you knew what was going on. So I'll speed up a little bit so that I'm not explaining all the basics. Okay, so I can come in here and add thing for add. Okay, now I could get away with just putting in the minimum. This will make the test pass, but I will never get another failure here, so I might as well come in here and say add two numbers. Maybe I change what it actually does later on and I forget to update the documentation. We don't have anything that actually checks that the documentation actually says what it does. I think there are some other programming languages that do that automatically. It knows how to check those sort of things, like take the method signatures and.
Yeah, what is the syntax for the comment that you didn't get it?
For the documentation?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the pod, it's very simple. You start a list with this bit that says equals over. It's nothing like a bulleted list. And then this is one item. And then I'm going to stop doing the documentation, so I'll say equals cut. And then I'm back to code.
Yeah.
And then when I do something that says equals something, where it's expecting new code, that starts documentation again.
Yeah.
Until I get to this bit.
Can you make it out of order?
Yes, if you want.
Yeah.
A lot of people like to do just the code and then the documentation, instead of doing it interchangeably. But I actually like this one better because you can, especially if you're using colors, because you can see the documentation and right next to it it's the.
Can
the
we use
actual
colors?
documentation.
Can we use colors here?
You probably could, but my DI is very simple. I don't have anything installed.
Okay.
What else would you suggest?
Well, if I was doing this,
By the way, I guess we may have some newcomers today, but I'm not sure.
okay. This is how I would actually do it. I would just pull up my
Better.
Mac editor.
Yeah.
But what I don't like to do in the demonstrations is go here, then have to go there. So I just do it all in one widget. But you can see, as Bruno said, this is in my documentation color, and this looks like my code color. I don't want movement. Okay, so I do the make test again. Everything is fine. And then you just continue on like that in Perl. I won't go, you guys have done the test-driven development stuff, so you know what's going to happen next. We're just going to go back and forth with the test. I'll do a little bit and then we can stop because you guys know the idea, but you'll get to see a little Perl. So then there's a bunch of things that we can do.
I think there's new OK too. That's more.
New OK?
Yeah.
Oh, like you can make a.
Yeah, it checks for new and it builds an object, but I'm not sure the syntax.
So yeah, then the next thing that we can do is I like to do something like this. We'll say, my object, whatever you want to call it, is DojoRio new. If I was really fancy here, I would check to see if there was a new method too. I think I have this up for 5.10.1, so I don't know if that's the best builder. And then I would check to see that the object is the right class. Oops. So I'll do an is of OK and say DojoRio. It actually sounds nice, DojoRio. Okay, but then I notice that I'm typing the name of the class over and over again. So I come up and I do something like this. So say, then, let's see if I can not embarrass myself here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Was it 7 dash? Okay, first time. Okay, so now I don't have to keep typing the name of the class over and over again. In here, I can actually say, I can make a list. Add and new, like that. Okay, now this is going to fail because I haven't done anything with the new yet. But we'll do it to make sure it fails. Yeah, so the thing does not come out as the right sort of object because new doesn't do anything. So the minimum amount to make that work, oops. Is to come down here to the new method and we'll say, we'll make some object. The two curly braces there are just a anonymous hash reference. That's not really important for what we're doing. And then I'll say, okay, I won't cheat. I will say class like this. I like to just sometimes go into the argument list itself, but then I do this. I'll just name the things in the argument list so that it's easier to see what they are. Take the class name off the argument list because it might actually be a different class if there was subclassing involved. And I'll use that to label the stuff. Perl stole its object system from Python. So if you've used Python before, we're sort of doing the same thing. Unfortunate, but that's how it happened.
I don't know if I'm the only one here that is quite lost. I don't get it all.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to say. Don't worry about necessarily what the Perl code says. Just think about the process. So I'm adding some code to make the new method create an object.
Yeah.
Just a blank object.
What about bless?
Okay, so the bless, what it does, and don't get too hung up in this, because if I wanted to teach you how to do this, the course that I do this in takes a week.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be here all.
Why not?
Is this guy is a reference.
Yeah.
It's an anonymous hash. It's a hash that has no name. The way that Perl does its objects is it takes a reference and it attaches a class name to it. So that when we call methods on the reference, it sees, oh, I'm labeled with this class. And then I know where to find the code for that.
It's like this hash is keeping the state for the object.
Basically, yeah. But like I said, don't worry too much about the Perl.
Yeah.
And just sort of, this is the process that we go through. If this is some other language, we would go to the new method, do whatever we have to do to create the object. We're not doing anything, it's just the minimum possible. But this is basically how every Perl constructor works. There's a bless in there somewhere.
You could, of course, use moves.
I could have used moves, which will do this behind the scenes somewhere. And I don't use moves often enough to actually do this on my own. Maybe once I finish this, we'll do one method, and then Brenda will come up and change us all the moves. Moose is another object system for Perl, which I still say it's basically experimental because it's not in the Perl core yet. But it does lots of metaprogramming, and it handles all the details for you. And it does it in something that looks a lot less like Perl, which is very nice.
I guess we used it quite some time ago when Brenda was here.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So let's try this now. Let's do the make test. Now it makes the object does nothing, but it passes the test. I tend just to always make object-oriented modules. It's not a requirement. Some things don't necessarily need it. This thing isn't going to need it because we're just going to add some numbers, but it's there. Okay, so let's go back to our add. So now, okay, now here's where I start figuring out what I'm actually going to test before I start writing individual tests. So I'll put in a comment that says this stuff should work. This stuff shouldn't work. So when you test things, you want to test the parts where you expect the right inputs and things come back correctly. But then you also want to test the things where it's unexpected input or it's nonsense. And I actually like doing that part better. That actually takes longer too. So I put in some comments so that people know as they're reading down through my test file, this is the normal stuff, this is the abnormal stuff. So I'm going to start with this part. So let's say we have an object, it's right there. So let's say I do this. I'm going to create a scope so that I can have variables in the scope that don't affect the rest of the program. Like I'll say my result equals object add, and I'll say let's do this. Okay, no one would add these two, right? You should not want to add Sao Paulo to Rio. So I went to Sao Paulo before I came here, and I don't want to. I'm very happy that they invited me, and I went to their workshop. But Breno said, "Wait till you come to Rio." And I know you're recording this, but don't show it to the
Was I wrong? Was I wrong?
You were not wrong.
There you go.
So, and my sister thinks you too. I brought her as my traveling companion. We wake up, we go to the beach. We go to lunch, we go to the beach. We go egg biting, we go to the beach. Sao Paulo, you get up, you go to the conference. You go to eat, you go to your hotel.
That's it.
Okay, so that's not going to work. So now I'm at a point where I have to figure out what should I do in this case. Should I return 0? Well, you can't do that because 0 plus 0 is a valid thing to do. I can return undefined. If I want to do exceptions, I can die. At this point, you have to make a decision. We're not going to worry about that. It depends on what your application does. And the thing that I normally recommend is whatever else you're using, whatever that does, do the same thing. So if everything else uses exceptions, use exceptions. If other things return undef and you have to check it, return undef. So let's do, and then we can do this. We'll say we have a function called is from test more, where we say the thing that I got and the thing that I expected are the same. So we'll say result, and we expect that to be undef. Adding two, and I would give it a name. Adding 2 cities returns undef. So in this Perl test, there's the test right there, and different tests take different number of arguments. This takes the thing that you got, the thing that you expected, which is undef, and you can give it a name. And the way I name things is always a positive thing. It does this. It's never, it does not do this, or it didn't do this. It's always the thing that I wanted to happen, not the thing that I didn't want to happen. And that way, when I look at the label, which I'll show you in a minute, we can see what happened. Now, this is very interesting because I don't think this is going to fail. Wait, no, it will. Well, we'll find out. We'll find out. Okay, but before that, I could do this. I could say make test. No, I have to start like this. I always have to cheat and look at this. Let's see if I can get it without looking. I can set this environment variable to show me all the stuff that goes on. There's another way to do this too.
That's why people use proof more.
Yeah, that's not the way to do it. So I can do this. If I do Perl -nblib,